Hello and welcome back to Raise the Trident. My name is Jake, and today we are going to be doing an off-season review. Now that spring training is finally here, the World Baseball Classic pitchers and catchers have reported to spring training, among other players as well, who even are participating in the tournament. So camp has already pretty much started. The full squad workout is in, I think, only a couple days at this point. We are recording this on February 12th. I don't know exactly when this will come out, either this weekend that we're here or maybe a little bit earlier next week. But we're going to talk about the offseason and only the offseason and how the Mariners did, look into some of the teams around the Mariners that I think are pertinent to look into and how they did as well and how they're shaping up. So to help me with that, we have friend of the channel, Jay's Trident Podcast is back on the channel. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Jake, thanks for having me. As always a pleasure to get to talk ball with you.
Of course, of course. Yeah. We have a little bit of like a night mode situation going on for me here. I would turn on my light, but it's 8 o'clock right now, 8 p.m. So I'm kind of just feeling like, sometimes I don't like the light just shining in my face, though, for a whole 45 minutes straight. It's a little bit comfier and cozier. And yeah, it's perfect vibe to talk about this off season. Now, going into this off season, there was a lot kind of riding on it in the sense of, you were 8 outs away from the World Series, and then you get knocked out in devastating fashion. And pretty much the big question is like, okay, where do you go from here? Because the last few years, the off seasons have not been particularly good, especially the off season going into the 2025 season was really bad. We have these memories of Tommy La Stella, we have Colton Wong, just a lot of duds that were terrible for the Seattle Mariners. And so it was kind of like, okay, you got so closer than you've pretty much ever been to the World Series, someplace you've never been. How is the ownership group, how is the front office going to respond? And, you had a lot of guys who you were kind of hoping to retain, guys like Jorge Polanco, Eugenio Suarez was kind of on the cusp of like, do you retain him? Some people wanted Mitch Garver retained a little bit, of course, as a backup and for cheaper than we had him. And the offseason was very interesting. Lots of really cool moves, a lot of weird moves, but it all kind of came together, I think, fairly okay, but we'll get into it a little bit. So first, I'm gonna list off all of the Mariners moves that I felt were notable. I'm not going to include every single minor league deal or whatever, just the ones that I think are really going to be a big they're going to be a big effect on the major league squad going into 2026. So to start out the whole off season, start off with a bang. We signed Josh Naylor to a 5-year, $92.5 million contract. It looks like he's going to be making $18.5 million AAV. I don't know if that's for just the whole contract or for this year, but really good deal for him. After that, we traded catcher prospect Luke Heyman to Boston for right-handed pitcher Alex Hoppe, who is currently one of the pile arms right now for the relieving group. After that, huge trade, traded catcher Harry Ford and right-handed pitcher Isaac Lyon to the Washington Nationals for left-handed reliever Jose A. Ferrer. Then we signed catcher Andrew Kisner to a 1-year, $1 million deal. After that, signed outfielder Rob Refsnyder to a 1-year, $6.25 million deal. Traded right-handed pitcher Dusty Rivas to Cincinnati for right-handed pitcher Yosver Zulueta, which I think I nailed that last name. I really am proud of myself on that one. Signed Patrick Wisdom to a minor league deal. Signed Dane Dunning to a minor league deal. We traded oh gosh, there goes the talking. I can say Zulueta fine, but cash is the problem. Okay. Traded cash considerations to the New York Mets for right-handed pitcher Cooper Criswell. Traded cash considerations to Minnesota Twins for catcher Johnny Pereda. And then the big one that just happened recently, we traded switch hitting switch pitcher Tarantula Sanja, outfielder Ty Pete, a comp B draft pick, and Ben Williamson to the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, the first three went to the St. Louis Cardinals. For utility man, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know because he's going to be everywhere. Brendan Donovan. So the biggest ads, of course, here: Josh Naylor, Jose A. Ferrer, Rob Refsnyder, Brendan Donovan. Those are kind of the guys who are going to be on the big league squad for sure and are going to be making a big impact for us. And then some, smaller things. So we're going to talk a little bit about our favorite moves of this offseason and in any that are kind of maybe under the radar. So we'll start with Josh Naylor. It's already been talked about a bunch because, it did happen like a few weeks into the offseason, very similar to how we traded for him and we got him very early on in the trade deadline process. We were able to snatch him up for 5 years and $92.5 million. So Jay, what are your kind of biggest thoughts about Josh Naylor going into this 2026 season?
You nailed Changa too as well. So you got the hardest names.
Sanja, right? Yeah.
There we go. See, I butcher that every time I say him. I just say the switch pitcher because I always get embarrassed. I'm going to butcher the name. In terms of Josh Naylor, I think I've never seen the fan base so united on anything than re-sign Josh Naylor and bring him back. I could have made videos saying like any other player, and there's always a few people. Well, I don't know about this, but everybody was on board with like just bring Josh Naylor back. He was so clutch last year when he came over to Seattle. I think he just became such a fan favorite with his energy and clutch hits that he had and his success in T-Mobile. He just hit the ground running. There wasn't a lot of struggles from him. So I think everybody was on board with it. And kudos to Jerry, Justin, and the ownership for getting that done right away. It looks easy now that he's here, but I remember talking to some people. We weren't sure if he'd come back. There was, we thought Boston might be interested, the Mets for sure, the Yankees possibly, maybe even like Texas or Houston or something like that gets in there and gets involved. So there wasn't a guarantee that they'd get him back, and they got it done right away. They didn't try to get cute with it and go, well, we didn't want to go to the 18.5. Our number was 16, so we didn't want to go there. We think we can do something else there and have Patrick Wisdom and platoon with somebody or something, and Luke Raley can play there and we're going to get cute with it. Naylor came over last year, had a ton of success here. The ballpark didn't impact him. Beloved in the clubhouse, beloved by the fan base, and a darn good baseball player too. And now we get him for 162 games versus 65 or 70, whatever we had him for last year. So I think just an absolute slam dunk move. Like I said, they got it done so early in the offseason, almost gets forgotten about, but he was a free agent and you never know. So I think that's they nailed it, got it done right away. And so excited that we have Naylor here locked up and can start buying some Naylor gear now because we know he's going to be a Mariner for the next few years.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of guys that I feel like you've seen go to a new team and just immerse themselves in not only the team, but the city like Josh Naylor has, right? Like he was very clearly just in love with being a Seattle Mariner. After the first couple weeks, you could tell he just got super comfortable. And then in the postseason run, man, he was intense. Everyone was just flocking to sing his praises regarding how smart of a ball player he was, and he was raking in T-Mobile Park too. I don't have the exact numbers, but like he was obviously just super comfortable in T-Mobile Park and hitting there, and it was incredible to see just how quickly he became a fan favorite and clearly a clubhouse favorite and clearly an organizational favorite. The fact that they were able to wrap him up so quickly, obviously a lot of that I think has to do with Josh wanting to be here, which doesn't happen super often. So you need to kind of snag those guys up who want to be here to that level. And he's also a quality ball player as well. Now, Josh Naylor is plugging up a hole at first base that has not been plugged up for a long time now. Like we have just kind of like second base. It's been ever revolving door of who is going to be the next first baseman. Obviously, Ty France did have that for a few years now, but he just never felt like a first baseman just because of his size and all that. He just is not great, not big. And neither is Josh Naylor necessarily. It's just there's just an edge that Naylor has that I think is perfect for this ball club. He's super smart. He is obviously a very great guy, but he also knows when to be intense and he knows when to turn it on. So the fact that they were able to get it done so quickly was amazing, and I think a really good tone setter for the rest of this offseason. The next huge move that we need to talk about briefly is the Harry Ford trade. A guy who has been a top prospect in this system and in this organization for years now, since he was out of high school. And pretty much before he gets more than like 10 MLB at bats, he's gone, which is crazy. And for that, they end up getting left-handed reliever Jose A. Ferrer, who is a really solid reliever, a guy that we needed in the bullpen. I mean, you need that second lefty, I think, to play off of Gabe Spire. And some people were a little, I don't want to say frustrated. They didn't care for the idea that Ferrer is much more of a ground ball pitcher than he is a swing and miss pitcher, which I do understand that like this bullpen does lack some swing and miss a little bit, which is a concern. However, when you think about it, like you have your ground ball out pitcher in Jose Ferrer, and then lefty, and then the next lefty is Gabe Spire, who has that swing and miss. So you have two very dynamic lefties who are different than each other to play off of each other. Hopefully, we'll see. So what do you think about Jose A. Ferrer?
Yeah, and I think there is some strikeout stuff in there. His slider was a pretty good swing and miss pitch. He just didn't throw it a ton. Now, maybe that's because there's something he doesn't trust with it. But the Mariners have been pretty good at identifying a pitcher's strength or a pitch that's a strength and having that pitcher use it. Something they've been really good at. And the ground ball thing is obviously, ground balls are better than fly balls. They turn into outs more frequently. Mariners infield defense, not great. I'd say it's probably a little bit better now than it was at the start of last season for sure. But that could be a little bit of a concern because that was the problem in Washington, why his ERA was a little inflated, is their infield defense is pretty poor. That was a trade that, initially I was kind of like, oh, really? That seems expensive for Harry Ford. But as we've gone along, I've really come around on that trade. And I'm not into, oh, this guy's blocked and stuff, but I mean, there really just isn't a path for Harry Ford to be an everyday catcher in Seattle. He could certainly be a backup and DH and do some things, but the less he catches, and the less value he's going to have. Doesn't mean he can't be a good ball player by any means, but unless he's going to be behind the plate, I think that value is going to decrease. And in Washington, with Kyber Ruiz, who's, I believe, a very poor defensive catcher, he's going to have a chance there to really shine and maybe play every day with the Nationals. And for the Mariners, it gives a boost to a bullpen, like you said, that last year, I talked about it a ton on my channel. They were just missing that second lefty. It's kind of funny that they traded to Washington because that was a series, funny enough, that I thought really highlighted their lack of a second lefty because they got into extra innings in the game against the Nationals. I think it was like poor Colin Snyder just got demolished by James Wood and Josh Bell and Abrams, like all just hit home runs against him. That's an extreme. But I remember going, man, a second lefty would be huge in this game. They tried it with Caleb Ferguson, who, was good last year for Pittsburgh and just wasn't good here. Relievers are weird. And when you got a guy like Ferguson who lives on the margins, it's tough. Ferrer, I think, has a lot more upside than a guy like Caleb Ferguson. Throws a ton of strikes, doesn't walk guys. And I think there is some swing and miss stuff that could be unlocked there. And I'm thinking that's one of the reasons, Jerry and company really liked him. And he's under club control for a lot of years as well. So if he can turn into someone that's, a dominant reliever, which he really, against lefties, his OPS against was like in the 3 or 4. It was really low. So this is a guy could actually absolutely be sawing off some of the tough lefties in the American League. And when you're a team like the Mariners that was, like I said at the beginning of the video, 8 outs away from a championship, adding those guys, that like, if the Mariners were coming off a 75-win season, I would hate this trade. Like, why would you do that? But when you're close, or you feel like you're close, these are little things that I think can help you, get over the top. So I like the trade. I don't think they fleeced Washington or anything like that. I think it's a great deal for the Nationals. If I was a Nationals fan, I'd be praising the trade as well. But I think Ferrer is really going to help. And we're getting to the point there's just not a lot of, there's no bad pieces in this bullpen right now. It seems like everybody that comes in has a really strong skill set that can help get the team some wins, especially if the starter has a short night or games that go extra innings.
Yeah, and like, okay, the last little comment I'll make about this trade, and I've kind of heard it said before, and I don't want to sound too much like a bootlicker of Jerry here, but for them to trade Harry Ford for a reliever, they must have a lot of confidence in that reliever, that they're going to either unlock something or they just really like his makeup in this bullpen. So, ultimately remains to be seen. Maybe it is a huge whiff. I don't know. But, ultimately, Harry Ford was going to be blocked by Cal for the foreseeable future, at least for the next 2 to 3 years. And I just don't think Harry Ford needs to just be a backup catcher. I just don't think that's necessarily fair to him either. And clearly moving him to other positions was not going to work, or else they probably would have done that. So next we're going to move on to Rob Refsnyder, 1 year, $6.25 million. We kind of know what the deal is with Rob Refsnyder, and he clearly knows that as well. He was interviewed, I believe, by Seattle Sports, and he's like, I know what my job is here, and it is to mash lefties. Rob Refsnyder is just a platoon bat. Like, he is just another guy they're going to plug into right field, and they are going to deploy when they really need to. Against righties, he has not been great in his career, but against lefties, bringing it up now, versus lefties, at least last year, a 159 WRC plus, so absolutely crushed them. Against righties, a 67. So, he's a platoon bat, and he knows that, and that's ultimately fine. So any comments about Rob Refsnyder?
Yeah, the Southpaw Slayer. I really like this signing a lot. I think he'll probably DH a lot with Dom Canzone. It would be my initial guess. That's what their plan is? Although, sometimes this team gets weird with what they do, but I would assume that's what it's going to be. And I think, when you put those two together, you can kind of recreate Jorge Polanco. Obviously, platoons sometimes get exposed to the same-handed pitcher. Like, he's going to have some at-bats against righties and Dom, some against lefties, just is what it is. And I know the Mariners have had some failures with these guys in the past. AJ Pollock, Donovan Solano, guys that were supposed to mash lefties. One thing I will say to fans, yes, I understand that hasn't worked out in the past, but that's not Rob Refsnyder's fault. AJ Pollock coming here not being good is not anything to do with Rob Refsnyder. They're two completely different people.
It doesn't mean that's going to happen to Rob Refsnyder.
Exactly. I understand the skepticism, but they're two completely different human beings. And it's a position I think the Mariners did kind of need to fill. That bottom of the lineup in the postseason really struggled. He didn't really get that from Victor Robles. Hopefully he bounces back and he's better in 2026. I'm like, what year is it now? So, that'll help. But I do think it's a spot that they kind of needed to upgrade there. And especially with not getting Jorge Polanco back, you needed that right side DH bat. And I think this fills it. And I'm excited. I think him and Dom, I'm assuming again, that's going to be it. I don't know. Maybe he's in right. I mean, he can play some outfield, so I'm sure he'll be out there a few times, and you made a great point. He knows his role, and it's important to have those guys in the clubhouse. A lot of the few Boston beat writers after he left were like, this is a big blow. He was really popular in the clubhouse, just kind of a savvy veteran to have. He's been through playoff runs before. So he's one of those guys, I remember you'd watch Boston play and you'd be like, man, that would be a nice guy to have on the Mariners, just kind of a guy like that. And we got him. And so again, not a major piece, I kind of I don't think he's a guy that takes you from 75 wins to 80 wins, but when you're trying to win on the margins, these are the guys that can help you. And if he just does what he's done his career, it's going to be a nice boost to this lineup.
Yeah, so the last move we're going to talk about, as it was one of the last major ones, and it happened very recently, I mentioned it earlier, we had a big 3-team trade. We sent away Ben Williamson to the Tampa Bay Rays. We did not get anything from the Tampa Bay Rays back for that. However, it did help us broker a deal with the St. Louis Cardinals. Durangelo Senja, Ty Pete, and a Comp B draft pick are to the Cardinals for you. I hate calling him a utility man, but that's the best thing thing I can say. He's all over the place. Brendan Donovan. So Brendan Donovan was kind of like the white whale of the whole offseason. It felt like it was kind of, for Ketel Marte was part of it a little bit for a little bit of time, but then I think pretty quickly it was pretty evident that that was very unrealistic to happen. And Brendan Donovan became the guy, especially after Jorge Polanco signed with the Mets. It was just, you need to get Brendan Donovan or else this offseason is very, not terrible, but like very mediocre. Like just not, you should have done a lot more. And Brendan Donovan is a nice little needle mover, I would say, for this offseason and for the Mariners. Brendan Donovan has been a fabulous player for the Cardinals for the past 4 years that he's been a major leaguer. He is a consistent bat. He has good on base skills. He's not a slugger by any means. You might get you'll get double digit home runs, but we're talking like a little bit over 10, not like 20. So you'll get a little bit double digit home runs, but regardless, big on base guy, great base runner, and a great fielder as well. And similar to what you were mentioning about Rob Refsnyder, like seems like a really great clubhouse presence to have. A guy who plays hard. He feels. It feels like there's a clear makeup here between Josh Naylor, Rob Refsnyder, and Brendan Donovan of guys who just know their role or are willing to do whatever they need to do to win. And yeah, I'm really excited to have Donovan on the squad. Any thoughts about Brendan?
Yeah, I think you nailed it with that type of player they're kind of adding. It's the, not to sound cliche, but willing to get a little dirt on the jersey type player, like Naylor's Game 5 jersey against the Tigers that was brown by the end of it with all the dirt all over it. That's kind of what I think of when I think of Brendan Donovan. I think like pine tar on the helmet and stuff type player. Yeah, another move that I think really just kind of brought the offseason together for this team. My big thing was like, I didn't like going in with both Cole Young and Ben Williamson being starters on opening day. I was fine with either one. I'm probably a little higher on Ben Williamson than some other people. Like I could see him turning into actually like a fairly solid player if you can get that WRC plus to like 95, 100. I think he can play. But I just didn't like the idea of both of them being in there at the bottom of the lineup. And I wanted to see one of those positions upgrade. And they did that with Brendan Donovan. And like you said, it kind of the white whale of the offseason. It was like so guaranteed we'd get Donovan that was like, it's just not going to happen because it's just, we know it's going to happen, so it can't happen. And then they finally were able to get it done. And yeah, just no, you're good. Just a solid, no, you're fine. You're fine. Just a solid everyday player, struggles a little bit against left-handed pitching. But that's again, where guys like Refsnyder and stuff come into play. I know he's not going to platoon with Donovan, but having those guys to kind of counteract some of the guys that may struggle a little bit against lefties is going to be huge. So yeah, kind of, I think a fitting, I'm assuming into the off season, maybe a couple little moves here or there, but I think a good piece to kind of finish it off for the Mariners, gives them some stability. And it kind of now gives you a chance to, like if you have Ben and Cole Young and okay, does Colt Emerson earn a job? Are you rushing Colt Emerson? I think it takes a little bit of pressure off Cole Young and Colt Emerson now going into spring training. They can just kind of do their thing. If you need to, you could even platoon and get Ryan Bliss involved here. So I think it actually opens up a lot of doors too for the rest of the roster, having Donovan here. And another good thing, like you talk about utility, and I'm kind of the same way. It's like, you say utility, you think of like, the guys that aren't good, but just play everywhere. Yeah. But, if like Luke Raley and Victor Robles don't work out in right field, Donovan could go to right field and Colt Emerson can come up and play infield. So it really like allows you to do a ton of things now with this roster that I don't think you necessarily had before getting Brendan Donovan. So I really think it just kind of brings the offseason together and you kind of now see the vision of what they're going for here in 2026.
Yeah, I just feel like, the two big bats you brought in, Josh Naylor and Brendan Donovan, are just very well-rounded bats, like very well-rounded players in general. And I really wanted Jorge Polanco back. I wanted him back so bad. And, at the end of the day, like he took more money. What are you going to do? It's just, man, I would have, if you could have had Jorge Polanco on top of all this, which I mean, probably would have put a little bit of a log jam in the infield, maybe, who knows, but with Brendan Donovan being able to play outfield, like probably would have been okay. man, what an offseason that would have been. And yeah, so we're going to bring up the roster resource for the Mariners and what it's looking like right now. So this is on Fangraphs. You could check it out for yourself if you'd like. But this is what we're looking at. So going into the season, this is the projected opening day roster against right-handed pitching and the lineup. And I can't switch it to left-handers. So apologies, Fangraphs will not let me change it, so we can only look at the righties or against righties lineup. So right now it's projecting Brendan Donovan to lead off with Cal Raleigh in the 2-hole, Julio Rodriguez at 3, Naylor at 4, Randy Rosarena at 5, and then you have Canzone, Crawford, Robles, and Young to round it out at the bottom of the order. I do think this is probably not exactly how it's going to be. I would imagine Cal needs to be 3. I would prefer Julio in that second spot because you get Brendan Donovan on base, hopefully, and then you have Julio who can either get on base or, get a big hit, maybe move Donovan to third or even score him, who knows, and then you have Cal right behind him. That seems like it would make a little bit more sense. But regardless, I mean, this is what the lineup's looking like. And, I don't hate a lot of it. I mean, granted, that bottom 4, I mean, you're hoping for a lot. You don't really know what you're going to get from JP Crawford necessarily. You don't know at all what you're going to get from Dominic Canzone as much as people love him. I mean, you just don't know yet. I don't think he's had enough of a sample size to prove who he is yet. Victor Robles, kind of same thing. And I do think a lot of people are very down on Victor Robles this year and kind of think he's going to turn back into his Washington form. And I'm not saying that won't happen, but I just think the judgment's out for me until we're like a month into the season on what Victor Robles we're getting, because people are kind of basing it a little bit off of how he was in the postseason and all that. He missed the whole year. Granted, one of the reasons he missed time was because of him, but regardless, he missed basically the whole year. So, I mean, a guy coming back from injury and just missing most of the year, of course he's going to struggle. Like, it makes sense. Now, could he return to his Washington self? Maybe, but I feel like it remains to be seen. And then Cole Young, I agree that they need to give him some runway to start out the year. I mean, they didn't play him at all in September, and you're in a playoff push, so I understand it. He was starting to struggle at that time. I'm excited to see what Cole Young can give this offense in March and April and see if he can really take off a little bit. So, when you're looking at this lineup, I guess I should notate the bench here too. Let me scroll that up a little bit. And then the bench would be Andrew Kisner is projected as the backup catcher, which we didn't mention earlier, but I mean, he's a backup catcher. I'm sorry, but I just don't think there's a lot to say about that. I mean, you just kind of hope he can get some hits and some homers and play good defense. That's what we're hoping for. And then Luke Raley, Leo Rivas, and then Rob Refsnyder on the bench. So when you're looking at this, what stands out to you and what are you liking and what are you not liking?
Yeah, I actually am probably a little higher on that bottom of the order. I get everything you said is correct. Like, you don't know, but like if Dom is Dom of last year, and a lot of the underlying data would tell you that it was legit. I'm definitely in that because when Dom has bad at bats, sometimes you're like, dude, how is this guy a major leaguer? But when he's locked in, he's really good. JP is tough because, like, overall his numbers, I mean, offensively, we're taking out defense here, we're fine last year. It was just a tale of kind of two halves for JP. And if you can get Victor Robles, like you said, back to, it doesn't have to be as good as 2024, but in between 25 and 24, and Luke Raley closer to 24, I think that's pretty good. You may see Luke Raley in there against right-handed pitching, to begin the season as well. And Cole Young, I think is kind of a forgotten prospect here a little bit. Now I'm glazing and being a little more upside-ish on it. There's definitely some downside, but it's not like they're asking Cole Young to hit first or second. He's going to be hitting ninth. If he can give you, a 105 to 108 WRC plus, like, I don't think that's crazy that he could do that. You're looking at a really solid lineup again, with no real easy outs. And that's kind of what I see here with the lineup is just not a lot of easy outs. I think you've got then on the bench, if it's, Robles, with a righty on the mound, then he can come in against a lefty and give you a little bit of a defensive and base running upgrade probably. Rob Refsnyder's on the bench against a tough lefty. Leo Rivas is great for just super utility and was a pretty good little hitter last year too, and super patient. So he's going to give you a tough at bat. I'm with you on Kinzer. Like I was kind of in the camp. I wouldn't have mind seeing Garver back, to be honest, just because like the bat was at least had some upside. But who knows? I don't even know if Garver's signed anywhere yet, to be honest.
He's
So
still a free agent.
which probably tells you that like nobody's really believing in him there a little bit. So, I like the bench. I still think Ryan Bliss is a guy that can make the team and contribute a little bit. I thought he looked pretty decent before his injury last year. So wouldn't be shocked to see him in the mix. That would give you a nice base running option at the end of games as well. And I think there's a good mix of lefties and righties here. Like I know there's some concerns about struggles against left-handed pitching, but you have Cal, you have Julio, you've got Randy, you've got Ruff Snyder, hopefully Victor Robles back to a little bit of 24. I don't know if I said Cal in there, and Naylor hits lefties okay enough to be serviceable. I think I think the strikeouts will be down a little bit. I'm not a huge strikeouts are the worst thing ever, but I wouldn't mind the team cutting down a little bit on them. And I think you've got a good mix of like, just a good balanced lineup there. I'm really excited. I like it. I think Donovan makes a ton of difference there. It's one of those guys you just pop that name in there, and that lineup looks so much better, in my opinion, than it would have looked before that trade.
Yeah, and I guess another note, I would imagine JP might be in the 9 hole. It just seems like he has a lot of success there, and he works really well as kind of that second leadoff hitter in a way. One thing I want to turn attention to that I thought was interesting is looking at these K percentages, and these are 2026 projections from Fangraphs, so these aren't at 2025. This is the projections for all these players. First of all, love your leadoff hitter having a K percentage of 13.7 potentially. I love that. Love that a lot. And I actually like the K percentages for the most part either. I mean, we know Cal's going to strike out. Like it's just that's already clear. And same with Randy. But I mean, yeah, if you can get Julio at 21, I'd love that. If you can get Dominic Canzone at 22, I will take that as well because it feels like he strikes out a lot. I haven't looked at his numbers recently, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, I just like those numbers here. And then we're gonna go down here. There should be the pitching section here. So this is the projected rotation and bullpen for 2026. Now, obviously, we're in spring training. You never know how this is going to end up looking on opening day. And these are just projections at the end of the day. Because right now, I mean, it says Brian Wu is going to be the number one. I don't necessarily know if they'll give him the SP1 nod necessarily, especially with a healthy Logan Gilbert back. But I mean, your core, your rotation is the same as it was, right? Like not a whole lot to say. It's just those guys need to stay healthy. And if they stay healthy, I truly believe this could be the best rotation in baseball. It already is on paper pretty much. It's just a matter of can they stay healthy and can they stay effective? And can guys like George Kirby take that extra bump up that we haven't seen yet? Like I feel like we're all waiting on that extra gear from him that we just have not seen yet. And will we see it this year? We will see. And then, Bryce Miller's exciting, man. I mean, he just was injured pretty much all year last year. And then you saw how he performs under pressure. That man was lights out in the postseason, which no one expected, by the way. I thought he was going to get shelled, especially against the Blue Jays. He was injured. He's just not been good the whole year. And he shoved, I think twice, right? So the rotation, not a whole lot to say, but because there's also no new additions, right? So, I mean, we've talked about the rotation. Any little notes you have about that at all or no?
No, not really. I mean, I agree. I think Logan probably gets the opening day nod, just kind of a veteran nod a little bit there. And yeah, I think what Bryce Miller did in the postseason was just obviously important for the Mariners because it helped them get as far as they did. But also for Bryce, just a lost season turned into something that he can build off of. And yeah, I mean, I think that the name of the game is health for this rotation. I do like some of the depth pieces that they added. Like, I think Dane Dunning, who's a pretty good ground ball guy, like if he has to make 5 to 7 starts, I think that's okay. I mean, you'd prefer that nobody gets hurt there, but I don't think you're going to be lost if he has to do that. And then Luis Castillo, like, avoid as many road starts, as you can, preferably. But he's kind of one of those. He's a gamer. Like he'll give you the 5 innings. Like it may be ugly sometimes as he's getting towards probably close to the end of his career, but it doesn't have to be pretty. Just get me 2-3 runs or less in those 5-6 innings, and we'll go from there. So yeah, I think the rotation's in good shape. It's just a matter of health. And I think it's one of the keys for this team. And I think that they're banking on is that rotation getting at least closer to 24 than it was in 25. And it's not going to take much. We're not asking for miracles here. We're not asking for, a 47-year-old Max Scherzer or something to pitch like he did when he was 29. We're just asking these guys to be a little healthier and a little bit more to what they were in 24 at their peak than they were in 25.
Yeah, so then looking at this bullpen here, this is obviously the one, or the whole pitching staff, the one actually take a look at. So, of course, at the closing position, you have Andres Munoz. Interestingly enough, they have Jose Ferrer as the setup guy. I think Gabe Spire has that, so I wouldn't agree with that projection. But Matt Brash as the setup guy, I would put Gabe Spire in that setup. And then, in your middle relief, then technically you have Jose Ferrer, Edward Bizardo, Carlos Vargas, Casey Legumina, and then Cooper Criswell as a potential long arm reliever. Yeah, I mean, obviously the top is really nice. I mean, a top of Gabe Spire, Matt Brash, and Andres Munoz, I think is still incredible. Really hoping for the best of health for Gabe Spire and Andres, who are both going to be pitching in the WBC here shortly. I think the guy I'm most interested in really is Edward Bizardo. I mean, he just had such a underrated year last year that just felt like it came out of nowhere. Can he replicate it? That's what I want to know. Because if he can replicate what he was doing, if he could pitch the same, I would not say the same amount of usage because it was getting borderline ridiculous at some points of the year. But if he can be as effective as he was last year, I mean, that is huge. That would be huge for this bullpen, especially with how much he potentially could pitch. Obviously, Jose Ferrer's in here, and then the end is a little rough. I mean, Carlos Vargas, he has flashes where he looks incredible, and then times where it looks like he can't get it out. So there's that. Casey Legumina, I have nothing personally wrong with him. It's just more of, I mean, I would like someone a bit more for sure to perform, but at the same time, I mean, your ending guys of the bullpen, they're usually guys who are you just don't know what you're going to get, right? So who knows? I mean, maybe he'll turn something on this year. I have no clue. And then Cooper Criswell would be interesting. I could have swore he was a starter, which is maybe why they have him projected as a long relief guy, which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you do need long relief guys available. It's just I am very curious when we will get the official word about Emerson Hancock and what his deal is, because I think that's one kind of wild card I'm waiting for. Like, because it seems like they were really converting him into a reliever at the end of last year. And now with Logan Evans hitting the shelf for the whole season, I'm curious if that's going to change. So I think he's one big wild card for this bullpen spot in general. So any notes about the bullpen from you?
Yeah, before you mentioned, I was going to say, I'm not sure if they're putting Hancock back into a starting role because I'm still kind of intrigued by him in the bullpen, just with the velocity. If he could kind of become a pretty decent weapon. He had a couple outings last year where he looked pretty good out of the bullpen. So bullpens are always tough. Like the year to year, their variance can be weird. Like, I mean, 2023 Spire was outstanding. Then 2024, he was hurt and looked pretty bad. And then he was outstanding in 25. So you never know what's going to happen with some of these guys, but you got to feel pretty good about the back end with Munoz. Brash now, remember we didn't have Matt Brash till like May of last year. So now a full off season for him, could maybe even be a little bit closer. I mean, he was great last year, but maybe a little bit closer to 2023 Brash. Ferrer, you feel pretty good about. Spire. So Bizardo, like you said, I'm a huge fan of what he did last year. So feel pretty good about it. I'm with you. I'm not wild on like Casey Legumina. Vargas is like you said, there's moments I'm like, wow, Carlos Vargas looks really good. And then he gives up a home run the next minute. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
But, I think if those guys are pitching like, when you're down 3-0 in the ninth or whatever, you could do worse than the two of them, in those situations. They're there to just kind of get you over the hump a little bit. And as we know, there's so many guys from the pile that are going to get mixed in and out of here too. We're going to see so many of those, names you mentioned, those trades that we forget about in the offseason. We're going to see a lot of those guys at some point too. So there's always a mix there. The key is really going to be that core: Munoz, Ferrer, Brash, Bizardo, and Spire. That's going to be the key. If those guys can stay healthy and do what they are capable of doing, then you're fine. The rest can kind of come and go. And then maybe get a couple surprise performances. Maybe one of those guys from the pile. Maybe it's Emerson Hancock. Maybe it's Cooper Criswell. Turn out to be a pretty solid reliever.
Yep. All right. So before we give a grade on our off season, one thing I wanted to point out is there's this little point of free agent trackers. So this shows kind of like who the free agents from our team going into the 2026 off season were, and kind of where they ended up landing if they signed at all. I mean, right now Luke Jackson and Mitch Garver have not signed with any team yet. There's some minor league deals: Taylor Saucedo's with the Angels, Gregory Santos with the Giants, and Trent Thornton with the Cubs, which is interesting. Hopefully, Wrigley Field treats him a little bit better while he's there. So yeah, but really, I think the main guys here, like the only guys out of this whole list that you were like unsure about or you kind of wanted back, was Eugenio Suarez and Jorge Polanco. Now you got neither of them, but I'm curious, like when assessing the offseason, I mean, you do have to assess who you lost, right? Because you can't really fully put it on who you lost out to other teams, just general free agents that you didn't have before. I think you need to take more into account who you lost, who was on your team last year. And Eugenio Suarez and Jorge Polanco are at the forefront of that. Now, I said earlier, I mean, I really would have liked Jorge Polanco back. I think he was a solid player. I think he was a great fit for the clubhouse, which of course Gino is as well. I mean, duh. But I personally was the low man on Gino. I did not want his bat back in this lineup. I didn't like the strikeouts. I don't think he's particularly good at T-Mobile Park. And obviously, like, if you're going to play half your games here, like that's, tough to be bad at your home ballpark. How do you feel about Jorge Polanco or Gino? Was there either of them that you wanted to have back for sure? Or, like kind of what are your feelings about them being gone for sure now?
Yeah, Polanco, I was fine with bringing him back. Like, he was outstanding last season. You plug him in DH and he can play a little second. He's not a great defensive second baseman, but it would have been, if Cole Young struggles, hey, Polanco could go to second if need be. It just got too expensive. So I understand why they didn't match what the Mets did. But Polanco, I was all for it if they could get it done. I'm not. Gino's a tough one, right? Like, I love Gino, such a good clubhouse guy. And I'm not the guy, that home run in Game 5, just one of the greatest moments, in Mariners history. So I just don't want to come on and, get on somebody. And listen, if they were going to do nothing else and they decided, hey, 1 year, $6 million, whatever for Gino, then fine. Like, I get it. I could have stomached it and been like, this makes some sense. But he really wasn't that. He had a 91 WRC plus, I think, in his time with the Mariners last year. I mean, like, I think there's a chance, like, and forgive me, Gino, for saying this, but like, I think Ben Williamson maybe even could have done that for you with better defense. So I don't really have a problem with losing Gino necessarily. Again, if it came down to it and they were like, nope, we're doing nothing else, we're not getting Donovan, and they would have signed him, fine. Like, I get it. I think there's chance that's a great clubhouse fit and everything like that. But I'm kind of with you on that. I don't think it's a great fit for the ballpark. I think Gino was perfect when they acquired him last year. They weren't getting a ton of production from third base. He didn't need to do much to be an offensive upgrade for you. The team was going to love it and rally around getting Gino back. And I think that's what trade deadlines are for. I think once that's done, that's someone you go, hey, like, thanks for coming and helping us last year. We appreciate it. Best of luck. I'd much rather have Brendan Donovan, if we're equating 1-to-1 there with that. So I'm absolutely fine. Once they got Donovan, Gino to me was like kind of whatever. Like, they made the upgrade at that position. Polanco's a tough one because I would have been absolutely fine bringing Jorge Polanco back. But I do understand that getting to a point where, you know, it just got too pricey for the Mariners at that point. But out of the two, I definitely would have preferred Polanco to be back.
For sure, for sure. All right, so we're gonna give our grades for this off season. So this is where people are really gonna get mad at us, probably, potentially. Who knows? So let's get right into it. Jay, what would you grade this off season and give your reason why?
So when I grade an offseason, I have to grade it on a curve, like because you are competing with other teams in this league. It's not just you. If it's, you know what I mean, like the Mariners offseason in comparison to everybody else in the AL absolutely matters because that's who you're competing against to try and win. Like you don't have to be great; you just have to be better than the other teams. It's kind of like I don't have to outrun the bear; I just have to outrun you. You know what I mean? To when you're camping and stuff like that. So I think when you take that into consideration and you look at the rest of the American League, which Toronto's been very active with what they've done, and Baltimore, I think, has been probably the second most active. But Baltimore's also starting fairly significantly behind the Mariners. You know, the Yankees, I like Ryan Weathers and they bring back Bellinger, but that's about it, unless I'm missing some little moves. Tigers were pretty active, but you know, I don't think, you know, I still take the Mariners over them. And in the division, Texas has been pretty active, but again, I think they're starting fairly significantly behind you. And Houston, I think, has probably lost more than they've added to an extent. So when you take all that in, I might get hate for this, but I think it's an A minus for the Mariners this offseason. I think getting Josh Naylor back, which is going to be, we talked about it, kind of forgotten because it happened so long ago and because he was here last year, but that wasn't guaranteed that he was going to be back. You know, we can debate, you know, is Ford for Ferrer a good trade? That's fine. I can understand people not loving the trade. But when you look at the addition, you've bolstered your bullpen. You get Brendan Donovan in here that gives you that infield upgrade that we've been looking for as well. And then, you know, Rob Ruffsnyder, I think putting him with Dom Canzone, I think can give you a similar like WRC plus to what Jorge Polanco gave you last year. So I think they've recreated Jorge Polanco essentially at DH. You bring back Naylor. Now you have Naylor for 162 versus 62. Donovan for 162. A strong bullpen. I think it was a really good offseason. I'm going to go A minus. Probably not perfect, but you know they rarely are. And for a team that you know we've criticized for not being super active, I think they did overall a pretty good job in trying to get this team over the top.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the hard part with judging off seasons, like you said, is you also have to grade it on a curve. You have all these other teams in it. And I think for the people who really didn't like this offseason, I mean, I would have to, like, the question would have to be raised, what deals were done outside of the Mariners that you wish they would have done or thought they could have done, right? I guess that's the big question because, like, when I'm looking at just what we acquired, we got Josh Naylor, huge W. Brenda Donovan is a big W as well, and I'm fine with the cost of that package. And a bunch of kind of smaller pieces. I mean, Jose Ferrer is hopefully going to be a good bullpen arm. I would say I personally give the offseason a B. And the reason I give the offseason a B is I wish they had paid a little bit more attention to the bullpen. And I know that's weird after just literally saying they got Jose Ferrer. It's just, I truly felt like they needed another high leverage swing and miss guy. And if they could have gotten that in some way, shape, or form, then I would be feeling a lot better about this offseason. And there is still time where they could maybe get someone like that. I don't know. Maybe it's via trade or whatever. I don't know who all is still on the free agent market necessarily, and probably no high leverage guys if they're still available. But it's like I'm looking at the list on Spotrac right now of all the free agents that went into this year, and I'm like, okay, who would I have liked to have had? I mean, they're not going to pay Kyle Schwarber however much money he got paid. Same with Pete Alonso, and they got Josh Naylor. Like, so, you know, and sure, is Pete Alonso maybe a better hitter than Josh Naylor? I mean, sure, but at the same time, like, I don't think it's that much crazier of a difference personally. You know, we've already talked about how Bregman is not the best fit for, or at least the Mariners don't think he's a great fit, even though I would have still maybe liked that deal in general. Regardless, even if it was just for 1 year. I mean, Kazuma Okamoto, like those are things though where it's like pre Brendan Donovan piss you off, and then post Brendan Donovan you're like, okay, it's not that bad, right? It's not that big of a deal. I would
Right.
say the one guy who kind of got away from me a little bit was Tyler Rogers. I really wanted him really bad in this bullpen. I wanted his funky arm slot. He's just been consistently a fantastic reliever. Now, would have been a problem with our defense, maybe, but also I just feel like that guy in T-Mobile Park would shove like all the time. So I like that's the thing, man. Though is like that's one guy. That's like one guy where I'm like, "God, I really would have liked if they got that guy, and maybe a little bit better on like the backup catching side of things. I don't know, but like regardless, I think if you can find a way to still get another high leverage reliever who has some swing and miss, they really need that. I'm fine with it being righty or lefty, but it doesn't matter, whoever is available. And I kind of expected them to do something like that where they would flip like a Canzone or a Rayleigh and kind of deal from a little bit of that, I don't want to say depth, that surplus of lefty right field bats. But I don't know if you would have gotten a high leverage guy for it. Probably not. So that's where I'm going to go B, which I think was about the same as I graded last off season. So maybe I should go like B plus because last off season was not good. I don't know what I was thinking back then, but regardless,
You're
like
right.
that's where I'm
The
at.
LCS.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
no, that's a great point because we in that group that we were kind of joking, like not joking, but when they're getting Donovan and they announced every player like 5 hours apart for who was going in that deal.
Yeah.
We're like, ooh, are we getting Griffin Jacks or Jojo Romero here? So yeah, I'm with you. I think one more reliever would have been really, really clutch. I do wonder if they had re-signed Polanco, if they would have traded Rayleigh or Dom, or maybe just that deal wasn't there for a reliever for one of them, or the reliever they would have gotten just wasn't someone that they were super interested in. I mean, we know last year with Duran from Minnesota, they were close to getting him. So we certainly know that
we would have been the World
nuts.
Series if they did that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't need to bring back the memories, but like, at least it shows like we know that they view that as a need and a necessity. My guess is they probably view that as something they can add at the deadline that they'll make a move for. You'll have more guys available to you. But you made a great point. Like, who did you want? Like they're not, and Kyle Schwarber like went back to Philly. So I look at usually when guys stay, like, we don't know how much they even hit the open market a ton. So, and they're just not spending that money. Like they're just not going to give out those kind of contracts to free agents. And the ones they do are usually guys like Naylor and Castillo that were here and showed success. Like I would love Kyle Schwarber to be a Seattle Mariner. That would be a ton of fun, but they're just not, it's just not realistic. And from, when you take into consideration the ownership, and everything like that, I think they nailed it. Like there's always room, there's always room for a couple pieces. That's why I don't want to give it like a straight A. It's probably more like a low A minus to me because there's always room to be better. But I think when you, like I said, when you look around the league, I think there's a few NL teams that nailed it, but man, the AL, like Toronto, I think did pretty well, but they lose Bo Bichette as well, which is a pretty significant loss. So with what they've gained, they've also, lost some stuff. And then Santander is going to miss a ton of time. I don't know if that might be a positive for them, honestly. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty slow offseason and the Mariners were more active than most teams. And, we don't have to like love every single move, but it's hard for me to look at it and go, oh, they didn't do this. When I look at, and they were like ahead, like they won this division. They've done more, I think, maybe Texas with Mackenzie Gore, you could put in there, but they've done more than Houston this offseason. So it's hard for me to get like really mad at Jerry and Justin when they've been active and they wanted Polanco back too. I mean, they don't get like a cookie for that or anything, but like they were trying to get him back. The Mets came in with that. They've got money. They can just go, well, yeah,
I mean, the Mets panic bought Polanco. I mean,
yeah, exactly. He was going to be a Mariner until that happened. So like, even with that, they've tried. So The only one I don't think they really pushed for was Gino, which is understandable. And then, like I said, then they get Brendan Donovan. So, I really think that was the move for me that kind of brought it together, was finishing with Brendan Donovan. I think it just kind of ties a nice ribbon on the offseason. Like I said, there's still time. Maybe they do, maybe there's another utility infielder or something, and maybe another reliever out there that they do go get. But yeah, I think overall, I think a B is absolutely fair. I think it's a fair grade.
Okay. All right, so we're going to briefly look at the main contenders for the AL right now. So we're going to look at their roster resource on Fangraphs. And I wanted to do the grades afterwards, but I felt like including how other teams around you did is not exactly what the grade is about. Like, the grade is about how you did, and it shouldn't necessarily be reliant on moves that the teams around you did. So change that a little bit, but we're going to get into looking at the Houston Astros to start out with. Obviously, I think they're, the biggest contender against the AL West crown for you still. And this is what happened with them. So we're going to go over it briefly here. So you kind of, just like earlier with the Mariners, I mean, it shows you who the free agents ended up being for the Astros and where they went. They ended up losing Framber Valdez to the Detroit Tigers, which is obviously a huge blow to their rotation. Framber, as much as the emotional side of things get away from him, still a very good and solid pitcher. And so that's still a big blow to their rotation ultimately, but not a whole lot different. I mean, Ramon Urias is a bench piece. Victor Caratini is a bench piece. Luis Garcia he's just been hurt so much that I think that just totally, he's unsigned right now. And then if we look at their right-handed pitching lineup and bench, this is what it's looking like. So I mean, they still have Jeremy Pena, Yordan Alvarez, as long as he stays healthy, Jose Altuve, and then after that is kind of like it's the top three, and then it's like none of these guys scare me. I'm sorry, but a 31-year-old Carlos Correa doesn't scare me really. He looks older than he is on the field, it feels like. Christian Walker, I mean, yeah, he can run into one, but I mean, he just did not have a great year last year. And after that, I mean, it's Jesus Sanchez, Yainer Diaz, Zach Cole, and Jake Myers. And then on the bench, they have Cesar Salazar for backup catcher, Nick Allen, Isaac Paredes, and Cam Smith. Now, Cam Smith, he does scare me a little bit. I mean, he showed some flashes last year, so I could absolutely see him having a little breakout year. And then Isaac Paredes, man, he is a match made in heaven for Houston in that ballpark, and I don't know why they're trying to deal him as much as they are. There must be something else going on that we don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, that dude's makeup is the definition of Crawford box merchant. I don't know why they're trying to get rid of him. But yeah, I mean, so looking at this lineup, I mean, and I guess we'll go into the rotation and the bullpen really quick. We'll put it all in a bow here, and then talk about it. So, in the rotation, Hunter Brown is now their new ace, which I do agree with. Christian Javier, solid pitcher ultimately. Tatsuya Imai, I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get from him in his first year stateside, so we'll see. Lance McCullers Jr., I mean, can he stay healthy? No clue. Mike Burrows is a pretty decent get from the Pirates, it sounds like. I mean, it sounds like he has some pretty nasty pitches in his repertoire. So, and a little bit of like a Mariners killer type thing. I think what's like a good splitter or something weird. I don't know. And then Ryan Weiss, haven't heard that name until now, but free agent from the KBO. Cool. And then in the bullpen, I mean, really it's kind of a two-headed dragon at the end, whereas the Mariners have three. Josh Hader, of course. I mean, he's still going to be one of the better relievers and closers in baseball. And then Brian Abreu is just, I mean, man, I wish he was a Mariner, frankly, because that dude can pitch a lot and he can pitch well most of the time. And after that, I mean, Brian King, Enyel De Los Santos, Stephen Okert, Nate Pearson, Rodri Munoz. I mean, I'm sorry, but no one outside of Hader and Abreu scare me in that bullpen right now. So yeah, I mean, looking at this whole projected lineup, I mean, and in roster, I mean, how are you feeling about the Astros?
Yeah, I forgot about Burrows. That's actually a pretty solid little pickup. Nothing that I think moves the needle, but I think it's a solid pickup there by Houston. I forgot that they made that move. A lot of loss. Even Victor Caratini. That's actually a guy I kind of wanted the Mariners to pick up. That would have been kind of filled that backup catcher role and can play a little first base and DH as well. They lose him to Minnesota. He was really good for them last year. He hit in the middle of the order. Now, like a lot of that was because of injuries, but he was solid for them. Correa came over last year. I think his OPS was in the 600s with Minnesota, and he's OPSing 800 with Houston. That's probably not going to stay that high. Is Jordan going to stay healthy? Hasn't been healthy now for a few years. Christian Walker was not good last year. There can be some bounce back. We've talked about some guys for the Mariners we hope could bounce back. So the Astros could get some of that as well. But when I look up and down that lineup and the rotation, like Hunter Brown's fantastic, but Javier's fine. He's solid. McCullers was awful last season. I mean, just bad. Maybe it was health. But he's got to take a huge leap forward with all the injuries he's had. Hader, I think, might not be pitching right now. They say he's kind of dealing with some stuff. If I'm not mistaken, there's so many like fake
bicep. It was a bicep inflammation or whatever. I think he started his throwing progression today or something.
Okay. So, you never know with that. And he's coming off an injury as well. So, there's a path there for Houston for sure. If McCullers is back to being kind of average and Jordan is being Jordan and Jeremy Pena is there, it can definitely be a good team. But you look at their offseason, like they were behind the Mariners last year. And I know the comments, for anybody that's going to pick Houston win the division, that's fine. Maybe they do. I'm not saying they won't. It's going to be, they're going to be healthy, that Houston's going to be healthy this year. But I've fallen into that trap with my own teams before. We're going to be healthy next season. To use the football stuff, it's all you're going to hear from like 49ers fans now. They're going to be healthy next season. Watch out. And I think it can get a little misconstrued because like they had some guys fill in that did really well. I talked about Correa came over and was much better than he was in Minnesota. Jason Alexander filled in that rotation and was solid. I don't know if Spencer Arrighetti is back yet for them. I didn't see his name in there when you went through it. So I'm not sure where he's at. So sometimes it's, Taylor Trammell had some huge hits for them last year. Victor Caratini stepped up and was really solid. So, health is great, and I think the guys they have now are better than those guys, but like they're better than those guys this year. Are they going to be that much better than the replacements were last season? Like, let's say Julio got hurt last year and I don't know, like Ryland Thomas came in and played 80 games and had an 850 OPS. Like, I'd rather have Julio than Ryland Thomas this year, but is Julio going to be that much better than what you got from Ryland Thomas at that point? So I think that's kind of what Houston has a little bit of. So I like the Mariners better. I certainly will never count Houston out. They've got a lot of championship pedigree in that clubhouse for sure. But it does to me look like a team that's kind of might be in that purgatory a little bit of getting older, not bad enough where you blow it up, but how competitive will they be? I could see them winning the division. I will not count them out. I could also see a season where they just kind of fall and like the rain kind of comes to an end. So hopefully Astro fans are watching this. I'm sorry. It's just, I could see both ways. I could see you winning the division. So don't take it personally.
Yeah. I think, their off season is just, I'm sorry, but if you're a Mariners fan who hated our offseason, as an Astros fan, I'd be livid right now. Sure, could Tatsuya Amai be a really solid pitcher? Sure, but it's just like, it's his first year coming over from Japan. Like, you really don't know what you're going to get from him, right? And so there's a lot of question marks here. There's a lot of guys that I'm just straight up not scared of. And yes, could some guys break out or have great years? It happens for sure. But I'm sorry, but on paper, the Mariners are a better team, period, right now. And that could change for sure. But that's where I'm at with that. So I we'll briefly talk about the Rangers, I guess, because they did have a pretty good offseason, I would say. One of the better ones. They did some good stuff. So as you could see, they had a lot of free agents for this going into the year. And they ultimately lost a lot of them. Merrill Kelly went back to the Arizona. Tyler Mahle went to the Giants. Phil Maton went to the Cubs. Sean Armstrong to Cleveland. Hobie Milner to the Cubs as well. Adolis Garcia is gone. Danny Coulomb is still not signed, which is interesting. He's a pretty solid guy. Donovan Slaughter, Rowdy Tellez. I forgot that they went over there. And yeah, I mean, so that's what happened with them. But then they had some big gets. You can see at the top of that lineup, Brandon Nimmo is currently a Ranger right now. So pretty solid bat to have at the top of that lineup. Wyatt Langford, another year for him. I think he's just a great player all around. So going to be interesting to see what we get from him. Corey Seager, like once again, I mean, if he can stay healthy, I mean, he's still one of the best shortstops in the game. Jock Peterson, I mean, man, he needs to have a good year. Like last year was, I felt bad for him with how he played. And after that, I mean, I'm not really scared of any of these guys. I mean, Jake Berger, Evan Carter, Josh Jung, Josh Smith. I mean, Josh Smith I would say he's pretty solid and a bit underrated. Josh Jung could have a good year. Danny Jansen's a pretty decent pickup to replace, what's his name?
Jonah Heim.
Jonah Heim, that's right.
Where did he go?
He went, I don't know. Where did he go? Pittsburgh? He went somewhere. He is a catcher somewhere right now. I don't remember
Someone
where.
has.
I think he's with the Braves. The Braves.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
They signed him. And on their bench, Kyle Higashioka, Ezekiel Duran, Sam Haggerty, and Michael Hellman. And then going into the starting rotation, the pitching is really where it's at for the Rangers right now. So, and I mean, that starting rotation is really good for the most part. Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Mackenzie Gore, Jack Leiter, and Jacob Latz. I mean, if deGrom could stay healthy, I mean, he was still solid last year in general. So really cool to see from him. Nathan Eovaldi, I mean, that guy is just perennially a stud. So, he's still with them. And then Mackenzie Gore is like, he's teetering on overrated status, I think, a little bit. He was the Washington Nationals ace. That doesn't necessarily mean he's an ace anywhere else. And of course, he goes to the Rangers, and he's currently projected as the SP3, which I would agree with. It's still though a solid pitcher, and it's kind of one of those things. Like, he is now off of the Nationals, who are a team who do not have a chance from the get-go. They are not going to make the postseason. He is now with a Rangers team who aren't the favorites in the division by any means, but I mean, they have a path there, either through the division or the wild card or something. He has a little bit more to play for from the outset. Maybe he turns up a level. Who knows? Jack Leiter's he's young, man. So like, you never, he could pop this year. And then the bullpen, Robert Garcia closing it out. Chris Martin's up there. They're set up. Cole Winn, Jacob Junis, Alexis Diaz, which is a good pickup, honestly, from Cincinnati. Tyler Alexander, Josh Spores, I guess, is an NRI, and they did actually pick up Jordan Montgomery the other day. They signed Jordan Montgomery. He's not going to be back for the first couple months of the season due to his Tommy John status, or having Tommy John. So he's going to plug into that rotation at some point, probably at SP5. And, hey, I mean, he was terrible for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but maybe he'll be good for the Rangers. You just never know. So how are you feeling about the Rangers?
It's funny going through that. I actually don't hate that team. Looking at that, that lineup. If you can get Peterson and Berger, a little bit closer to a couple of years ago, if Evan Carter can kind of take that step forward, I'm with you. I like Josh Smith. I think Danny Jansen's a pretty solid pickup. It's not bad. And again, I'm going off names here, but I kind of like them better than Houston a little bit.
I was going to say the same thing. Yeah. I'm like, I kind of like them a little bit better. Like on paper, I would say I like them a little bit better. I do think Houston probably ends up beating them in the standings, but I do like them a little bit better almost. It's just injuries for them.
Exactly. Like, is DeGrom going to stay healthy? Because before last
Corey Seager can't stay on the field, that type of stuff.
Exactly. So that worries me. But if they do get those guys healthy, I mean, they did have, I think, the best run differential. I think second. I think the Mariners did pass them at the end in the AL West. But It's a sneaky team. Like
Hmm.
that rotation is really good. They are not going to give up hardly any runs in that ballpark. So I kind of like Texas. I'm not going to lie. On paper, kind of like them better than Houston. I could really regret saying that, but I'll take the Mariners over them because, like, again, it's health. DeGrom before last year hadn't been healthy for like 5 years in a row, and but Nemo's solid at the top of the lineup. So I kind of like Texas. That's a sneaky, when you see it in front of you, it's kind of a sneaky good baseball team, I think.
Yep, I would agree. All right. We're gonna look at the Blue Jays really quick, and then we'll look at the Yankees briefly. We'll tie this all up in a bow after that. Blue Jays had one of the most active off seasons out of any team in the whole league. I mean, they did end up losing Bo Bichette. They lost Chris Bassett, Anthony Dominguez with the White Sox now. IKF went to Boston. Scherzer still not signed, so who knows what's going to happen with that. But they still have a great lineup, and they got some great guys in good pickups. So George Springer, not going to say anything more about him. Nathan Lukes, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Addison Barger, Alejandro Kirk, Dalton Varsho, Kazumo Akamoto, Ernie Clement, and Andres Jimenez in the projected lineup for opening day, with the bench as Taylor Heineman, Leo Jimenez, Davis Schneider, and Miles Straw. I will say that, like, you do have to wonder how much of these guys are regression candidates. I'd be very curious, kind of like, a lot of those guys had some of the best years of their career. Can they keep it up? I mean, they certainly could, and I wouldn't put it past them at all. But I do think that is an interesting piece for the offensive side of everything. And then on the pitching side, and their rotation, Kevin Gausman, Dylan Cease, Trey Savage, Jose Barrios, and Cody Ponce. I would say those top three. I mean, that's one of the better top threes in the league right there. Jose Barrios and Cody Ponce. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get from Cody Ponce, right? Like, he was in the KBO for multiple seasons, was in the MLB, went to KBO, and then he's coming back. I mean, who knows if it's going to translate again. We'll see. And then Jose Barrios, I don't really know what's going on with him. I feel like every time I check in with the Blue Jays, it's like, well, where is Jose Barrios? I don't know what's going on there. And then in the bullpen, Jeff Hoffman's still looking at as their closer. Jimmy Garcia. I always forget it's Jimmy, even though it's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah, it's
Tyler
Jimmy.
Rogers. Gonna shake my fist at that one. Louis Varland, Brendan Little, Braden Fisher, Tommy Nance, and Eric Lauer. I would say, I mean, the Blue Jays are still definitely primed to be I would say, top three contender in the AL. I really think it's between the Yankees, Blue Jays, and the Mariners right now for the top three of this league. And you kind of see why, right? Like, I mean, sure, a lot of the offense could be regression candidates, but I mean, they could also just keep it up and still be just absolutely crushing it. I mean, those dudes on the offensive side of the ball in the playoffs, they were killers. All of them. It was ridiculous. So that, along with a pretty good rotation, and I think Trey Savage is going to have a great year. I'm really excited to see how well he does in a full year in the big leagues. Dylan Cease is kind of, he's not necessarily a needle mover, even though I know he's paid a lot of money for me. But Kevin Gausman's still your ace, in my opinion, and he's still, I mean, he's ridiculously good. So, what are your thoughts about the Blue Jays?
Yeah, I mean, and then they just don't strike out. They were so annoying in
Yeah,
the postseason. Everything was put in play. I think the challenge for the Blue Jays, and this is where I think the Mariners can benefit in the AL, is that division's just tougher. They're going to have to get past the Yankees, Boston. Baltimore's better. Tampa's going to find a way. Like, Tampa could trade every single player and they'll still be like 500. They'll just have some guys we never heard of that'll be up. Ben
yeah,
Williamson, is going to be there. So I think that's going to be where they could drop off. And like you said, you made a great point. Like, I think there is some regression candidates there. It feels like, I'm sure people could say it's about the Mariners too, but it felt like everything went right for the
yeah.
Blue Jays last year. Even Springer had a pretty good bounce back season. Does he continue or does he fall off a little bit? And like I said, just that division's going to make it challenging. Now, I don't think the AL West is a pushover by any means either. The A's are much better. I like Texas more now. That just looked at their roster, and Houston's still probably pretty good. So it's not like the Mariners have a cakewalk, but I think that's what's going to make it tougher for the Jays. Is I think it's just going to be it's a little bit tougher mountain to climb to get back. Like I think they're better than the Mariners, but I think the Mariners are probably more likely to win their division.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll look at the Yankees here to round this out. And once again, we're just focusing on these guys as the biggest contenders and kind of what they did in the offseason, reviewing that a little bit. So the Yankees re-signed a lot of their free agents. As you can see, Cody Bellinger is back, Trent Grisham is back, Paul Goldschmidt they just re-signed, Ahmed Rosario, Paul Blackburn, and Ryan Yarbrough. Main losses is Devin Williams, which I know he was not great for the Yankees. I do think he could be still a phenomenal reliever. Mark Leiter Jr., don't know a whole lot about him. Luke Weaver, we'll see if he can keep it going. Seems like a great guy. I have nothing against him, even if he wasn't the best Mariner necessarily. Just like seems like a good dude, and he was really good with the Yankees. Looking at the starting lineup here, I mean, Trent Grisham, it looks a lot the same as it did last year. I mean, Aaron Judge, what do I have to say? Cody Bellinger, Ben Rice, Giancarlo Stanton, Jazz Chisholm, Ryan McMahon, Jose Caballero, and Austin Wells, with JC Escara, Paul Goldschmidt, Ahmed Rosario, and Oswaldo Cabrera on the bench. I mean, still a very good lineup all across the board. I mean, a lot of guys who can do damage. I'm interested to see how Ryan McMahon does in his first full year in the Bronx. I know he was not the best after they got him from Colorado. And Ben Rice, he had a pretty decent year last year. We'll see what he can do for a first full year in the bigs as well. And looking at the pitching, Carlos Rodon, where is he at? Okay, I did not know Carlos Rodon is on the injured list. I was wondering where he was. So right now, the rotation is looking like Max Fried, Cam Schlittler, Will Warren, Ryan Weathers, and Luis Gill. However, they do have Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon and Clark Schmidt all on the IL. Looks like Garrett Cole is probably going to be back within the first month or so of the season, maybe a little bit longer. That's going to be obviously a huge addition back into their rotation. Carlos Rodon looks like he is. I don't know when any of these guys are supposed to be back. It doesn't tell me. But regardless, I mean, they're probably, I would imagine, getting all of them back at some point this year. I don't know. Cool. Anthony Volpe is here. He had shoulder surgery. Forgot about that as well. So he's got to put that in there. And then in the bullpen, David Bednar is currently looking as their closer, with Camilo Doval as their setup man, Fernando Cruz, Tim Hill still there, Jake Bird, Paul Blackburn, Ryan Yarbrough, and Cade Winquist. Have not heard of that name until now. So yeah, I mean, how are we feeling about the Yankees? I'm kind of feeling, obviously their offense is still ridiculous and good, and no problems with that. I think it's just a matter of, can the starting pitchers that they get back, can they perform well? And they're probably gonna need to beef up that bullpen a little bit around the trade deadline. I would say that's maybe their weakest point right now when I'm just looking at it on paper. So how you feeling?
Yeah, I think obviously, Garrett Cole, getting him back into that mix, and if he's back to what he was before the injury, that's huge. I kind of, when we were talking about like Yankees not making many additions, I forgot that probably having Garrett Cole back, so that is kind of an offseason boost because you didn't have him at all last season. I actually like the bullpen, but it's kind of the same as the Mariners. Like, I think the top is really strong there with Cruz's lights out, Duvall. Although I think he was a little hit or miss with the Yankees last year, and Bednar, then it gets kind of iffy. And the lineup is, I mean, you've got the best hitter on the planet, so that automatically makes that lineup like alone good. I think the depth of it's not great at the bottom. Like, it's a little top heavy. That's kind of always how I felt about the Yankees last few years. Like, if you can kind of get through that top of the lineup, it doesn't kill you, 1 through 9, whereas like the Jays last year were just like, okay, you got Vlad Jr. out. Oh, here's Ernie Clement just putting everything in play somehow. The Yankees don't quite have that type of lineup, but still, it's a really good baseball team. I think every team we went through, minus Houston and Texas, if you told me that's the best team in the AL, I wouldn't fight you. And if Rodon's not out for too long and Garrett Cole's back in there, it's a strong team. It wouldn't shock me if the Yankees won the AL pennant. Like that's a really good, and even the lineup. Well, I don't think it's like super deep. I mean, more relative to like the other contenders. It's still a deep lineup that's going to score a ton of runs this season. Then you've got some good platoon guys there with Goldschmidt, and even if Volpe can get back in there as well. So it's a really good team. They're going to be tough to beat for sure. But again, kind of let the AL East beat itself up a little bit, hopefully.
Yeah. So I'm going to end this out by sharing this new tab. I need to get it up here. If you know what Pet Coda projections are, or projections. It's made by Baseball Prospectus, which is one of the main sports baseball websites. And they put out these projections based off like simulations and stuff. I don't really know how all of it works, but I thought it was very interesting because, especially if we focus on this American League side, the Seattle Mariners are projected to win the most amount of games in the whole AL. And that's as of today. This is as of February 12th, which is when we're recording this, which is pretty cool, obviously. I really like that. And I think it's interesting how, the closest is New York at 88, and it has us at 93. Like, that's a significant margin, too. In the whole AL, look at how tight that is. 88.6 to 88.3. That's kind of crazy. But it really is going to be a two-team race probably for the AL East. But, man, like, how does that feel to see that? Let me be clear. I am not saying this is how it's going to be. These are projections. Like, projections can be wrong. Okay. I'm not saying they're going to end with 93 wins. And you can put as much stock into this as you want to. If you want to put zero stock into it, cool. I just think from a site, Baseball Prospectus, which is a very legitimate and valid site for baseball analysis, I think it's pretty cool that, we have this type of projection. So how are you feeling when you see this?
I am putting 100% stock into this, and there is no reason to even play the baseball season because we have this. So there we go. We got it. I think when you look at it, and my screen's a little small, I might be missing this. In the AL East, it looks like Tampa is closer to New York than Houston is to Seattle. I could be, it's
93 to 86 versus 88 to 81. So that's it's like seven
each. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
basically the
kind
same.
of my thought. Like that AL East is going to beat up on each other. And I don't think the AL West, they've got the Mariners win the AL West by 7 games. Again, like you said, I don't need to give all the disclaimers you just gave, but like, of course, you got to play this out. Injuries happen, things happen. But
Nope.
like it's not crazy to think the Mariners are the best team in the AL West, in the AL. Like, it's not a crazy take. I know when we're fans of a team, we get very into it internally and we go, oh, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. I watch people that are more casual and they follow baseball, obviously, but they go through and grade the offseason. Like, yeah, Mariners did great this offseason. This is a great baseball team. And this kind of bears it out. There's no bias in these projection systems. It's computers running simulations based on the rosters, and things can happen, but it's a really, really good baseball team that we have in Seattle. And this is not crazy at all that this could happen. And again, I think the AL East is your toughest opponent. I think they're going to beat themselves up a lot. Like, Boston's good, and they're in 4th place. So that division's going to eat itself up. The Central is kind of a mess. And the West is tough, but, I think it's the Mariners to win. And then if that East beats itself up enough, you can get home field advantage. And, if you're playing the Yankees or the Jays and the CS, if you get there, you're at least getting 4 of the 7 at T-Mobile potentially. So the sky's the limit. It's definitely not crazy to think Super Bowl championship and then World Series potentially.
Yeah. I do have to give a little, congratulations to anyone who either subscribes to this channel or watches this video who's a Seahawks fan. Of course, Jay is a big Seahawks fan, so congratulations on your Super
Appreciate
Bowl
it. Appreciate
victory.
it. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, I've said it a couple times now. I'm like, I would really love to have another parade in November. I mean,
Yep.
that's what I want. So, yeah, that's going to be it for this pod. We covered a lot of ground here, and so hopefully you guys appreciate it. Of course, go check out Jay's Trident podcast. All of his links are going to be down below. Any little last words that you have for the people at home who are watching?
No, I mean, we are a month away. I mean, well, actually, we're like a week away from baseball games. We're like
I
a month
know.
away from the regular season. So, I mean, it is right around the corner here. And with football going later for the fans, it's starting right up. So, no, as always, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, it just time flies when we talk ball. So I really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you.
Of course, of course. Yeah, go follow or subscribe to Jay. Like I said, links are going to be in the description down below. If you're watching this, like the video, it helps me out a lot. You can subscribe as well. It's free. And if you want to become a member for only a couple dollars a month, I appreciate that. We're going to try to implement some new members only stuff this year because I feel like I've neglected the members a little bit last few months. And, the off season is tough and long and boring. So it's very easy for that to happen. So yeah, just stay tuned for that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know what you think down below. Do you think we are total bootlickers? You can let us know that in the comments if you think we're spot on, or if you have your own takes, put it down in the replies. I'd appreciate it. But that's gonna be it for me in this one. I will see you in the next.